You've been sold a lie, not just once, every day. Since the moment you were old enough to notice what money was, what success looked like, and who was allowed to have it. Here's what they told you. Work hard, grind harder, hustle, outwork everybody, budget every cent, save till it hurts, sacrifice now so you can enjoy later. Sounds familiar? And yet here you are, still wondering why the money hasn't come, still feeling like wealth is this thing that keeps slipping just out of reach, like no matter how much you chase it, it outruns you. Let me tell you something nobody told you. Money doesn't chase effort, it chases alignment. And if you're not aligned, you could die grinding and still stay broke. I'm not here to hype you up with clichés. I'm here to tell you the thing that flips the switch. Because when you see money for what it really is, you stop chasing and you start attracting. This is the last video you'll ever need to understand wealth. If you get this, you won't need another finance book, another affirmation, another 10-step plan. You'll finally understand why money shows up or doesn't. And once you understand, you won't play small again. Here's the real problem. Most people think money is math. We were trained to believe it's a numbers game. Income minus expenses equals what you get to keep. Simple, right? But have you ever wondered why two people can have the same job, same salary, same degree, and one ends up thriving while the other keeps barely scraping by? If it's just math, shouldn't they be in the same place? It's not math, it's mindset. And I don't mean that fluffy, think positive garbage. I'm talking about the programming running under the surface. Let me ask you, what were you told about money growing up? Money doesn't grow on trees. Don't talk about money, it's rude. Rich people are selfish. Be grateful for what you have, don't want too much. Do you realize what that does to a kid? It makes you fear wanting more. It makes you feel guilty for even desiring wealth. And by the time you're an adult, you're so conditioned to think money is scarce that even when opportunity knocks, you don't answer. Not consciously, subconsciously. You turn it down. You say, I can't afford that. You undercharge. You shrink. That's the lie. The lie is, money is rare. Wealth is for them, not you. You have to sacrifice everything to maybe deserve it. And you've been living under that lie like a spell. But the truth? Money is everywhere. Money is flowing all around you every single day. The only question is, are you open to receive it? Because money doesn't just follow effort. It follows energy. And until you stop carrying the energy of scarcity, you'll keep blocking what's already meant for you. Let's cut through the fluff. Money is not just paper. It's not just numbers on a screen. It's an exchange of value backed by belief. Think about it. A $100 bill is worthless without the belief that it's worth $100. It's a symbol, a shared agreement that this piece of paper represents value. But here's the part they never told you. Because money is a symbol, it doesn't just respond to action. It responds to energy. And energy follows certain laws. There's a universal law you've probably never thought about, but you've seen it everywhere. The law of circulation. Everything in nature circulates. Water flows, air moves, seasons shift, blood pumps. What happens when something stops circulating? It stagnates, it spoils, it dies. Money's no different. If you hoard it out of fear, it stagnates. If you cling so tight to every penny, you choke the flow. If you're afraid to release, afraid to invest, afraid to let it move, you're signaling to the universe, I don't trust more is coming. And guess what? The universe mirrors that back. Money flows where it's trusted. Money moves toward expansion, not contraction. Have you ever noticed how wealthy people think? They don't obsess over every dollar spent. They don't pinch pennies out of fear. They make decisions from a place of trust in their capacity to create more. Meanwhile, most people operating from lack can't even buy themselves something nice without guilt. They delay joy. They delay investing in themselves. And that energy, it keeps them stuck. Not because they're bad with money, but because they're living out of alignment with the flow. When you treat money like it's scarce, you make it scarce. When you treat it like it's abundant and flowing, you create channels for it to flow through. Here's where most people get trapped, and I want you to hear this, because it's why no budgeting app, no side hustle, no hustle culture will ever fix it. They're trying to fix an internal block with external action. It's like trying to pour water into a cup with holes in the bottom. More effort won't solve the leak, because the leak is inside. If deep down you believe money is hard to keep, you don't deserve to be wealthy, rich people are bad, and you don't want to be bad, then no matter how hard you work, you'll find a way to get rid of the money. You'll overspend, undercharge, procrastinate on opportunities, self-sabotage deals, not because you're lazy, not because you're dumb, but because your nervous system is wired to stay safe in scarcity. You're uncomfortable with overflow. I know this sounds wild, but if you've never been taught that wealth is safe, that money is a neutral tool, that receiving isn't selfish, you'll unconsciously stay in patterns that match what you're familiar with. We recreate what we believe. That's why someone can win the lottery and go broke in a year, or inherit a fortune and lose it, or get a big raise and still end up in debt. If the internal thermostat is set to scarcity, the outer world will adjust down to match it. And until you change the setting, you'll stay stuck in cycles of just enough or never enough. That's the trap. So what shifts this? What actually changes the game? I'm not going to tell you it's more affirmations or vision boards. Those help, but they're surface level if the inner wiring hasn't shifted. The shift happens when you start living in alignment with the law of circulation. This isn't woo-woo. It's how nature works, it's how energy works, and it's how money works. Money needs to move. Money needs to flow. Money needs to circulate through trust, not fear. When you release money with trust, with intention, with joy, you signal to life itself, I trust more is coming. I trust I am connected to an abundant source. I trust I don't have to hoard to survive. And from that trust, more comes. But when you release money from fear, resentment, guilt, you signal, there's never enough. I can't afford this. I have to hold tight because more isn't coming. And life mirrors that back. The moment you start to circulate from trust, something powerful happens. You step into partnership with abundance. You become a steward of flow instead of a blocker of flow. And practically, this shows up in small choices, investing in yourself without guilt, tipping generously without scarcity, paying bills with gratitude instead of resentment. Every act of circulation strengthens your signal of trust, and trust attracts more. When you operate this way, opportunities start showing up that weren't there before. People open doors, deals close easier, creative ideas flow, not because you're suddenly lucky, but because your energy finally became a match for receiving. Wealth doesn't chase effort. Wealth follows alignment with flow. So if you've been living in a pattern of scarcity, how do you flip it? I'm not gonna pretend it's an overnight fix. But here's the truth. You can shift faster than you think when you stop fighting money and start relating to it differently. Money is like any relationship. If you ignore it, it drifts. If you obsess over it with fear, it suffocates. If you use it manipulatively, it backfires. But if you respect it, trust it, and steward it with care, it grows. Let me ask you, do you talk about money with shame? Do you hide from looking at your accounts? Do you dread opening bills? That energy is leaking into the relationship. Imagine if you treated a person like that, ignored them, avoided them, dreaded hearing from them. Would they want to stay close? Money is responding to the energy you bring to it. So the first shift is simple. Start treating money like a trusted friend instead of an enemy. Look at it regularly. Pay attention without panic. Celebrate what you have instead of obsessing over what you don't. When a bill comes, instead of groaning, say, "I'm grateful I have the resources to cover this." When you invest in something that stretches you, say, "This is planting a seed. This will multiply." This isn't fake positivity. It's rewiring your nervous system to stop associating money with fear. Because here's what happens when you stop fearing money. You stop repelling it. Money wants to move where it's trusted, respected, and loved. When you become a safe place for money, more of it wants to come in. And this isn't magic, it's practical. Because when you're not panicking, you make better decisions. You take more calculated risks. You hold your value higher. You show up more powerfully in negotiations. Fear scrambles your logic. Trust sharpens it. This shift isn't just internal. It changes your external behavior, and those behaviors change your results. Here's something most gurus won't tell you. You don't get to keep more money until you can hold more money. Capacity is the missing conversation. You've probably heard stories about people who blow through a sudden windfall, lottery winners, athletes, celebrities. One minute they're rich, next minute bankrupt. Why? Because they didn't build the internal and structural capacity to hold that level of wealth. Wealth requires capacity of mind, capacity of nervous system, capacity of systems. Let's break that down. If your mindset hasn't expanded beyond survival, you'll make survival decisions, even with abundance. You'll overspend, underinvest, bail out family, say yes to every ask, or sabotage the surplus. If your nervous system hasn't acclimated to more, you'll subconsciously create drama, chaos, or reasons to lose it, because peace and overflow feel unsafe. And if your systems aren't built to handle more, no structures, no boundaries, no team, no support, you'll drown under the weight of growth. So wealth isn't just about getting more. It's about becoming the version of you who can hold, sustain, and multiply more. You don't need more money until you've expanded your capacity for stewardship. This is why you see people hustle endlessly, but never build true wealth. They chase more income, more deals, more opportunities, but they haven't done the inner work or structural work to handle more. And until you increase capacity, more won't solve it. It'll just amplify the cracks. So the deeper question isn't, how do I make more? It's, who do I need to become to hold more? When you answer that question, you stop chasing random tactics. You start building foundations. You start strengthening the container, not just pouring more into it. Let's talk about something that's subtle but life-changing, the difference between earning and receiving. Most people are conditioned to think money only comes from effort. They believe every dollar must be worked for, sweated for, sacrificed for. And while effort matters, effort alone doesn't explain why some people get exponential results while others grind endlessly for scraps. There's a gap between earning and receiving. You can be a hard worker and still struggle financially. You can be talented and still underpaid. You can deserve more and still not receive more. Why? Because receiving is an energetic state, not just a transactional one. Receiving requires openness, willingness, a sense of deserving. If deep down you don't feel safe receiving or don't believe you deserve more, you'll block it. Ever notice how someone compliments you and you instantly deflect it? Oh, this old thing. It was nothing. That same pattern shows up with money. When opportunities come, you talk yourself out of them. When someone wants to pay you more, you feel guilty. When life wants to send you overflow, you shrink back to just enough. You're not bad. You're not broken. You're patterned. The good news? Patterns can be rewritten. The shift from earning only to receiving is subtle but powerful. It looks like saying yes when bigger opportunities show up, even if they stretch you. charging what you're worth without flinching, allowing people to pay you, tip you, reward you without guilt, celebrating money coming in, even from unexpected sources. Receiving is a practice. The more you practice receiving without self-sabotage, without guilt, without apology, the more natural it becomes to live in overflow instead of constant hustle. Wealth responds to receivership as much as effort. If you only operate from effort, you'll always have to work harder for every dollar. But when you open to receiving, you start to experience ease. This is the part nobody tells you in business school. Wealth doesn't come to you, it flows through you. You're not a container, you're a channel. The people who create massive wealth understand they're not just collecting money, they're circulating value, solutions, impact. They're conduits. The more they circulate, the more flows through. And here's the wild part. The universe doesn't reward hoarding, it rewards circulation. Every time you create value in the world through a product, a service, a solution, you open a wider channel for wealth to flow through. But if you try to dam up the flow, holding tight, refusing to release, refusing to invest, refusing to circulate, you stagnate. The wealthiest people aren't just accumulating, they're expanding capacity to let more flow through. They hire teams, they invest in infrastructure, they pour into people, they give generously, and because they trust the flow, more keeps flowing. You don't need to chase wealth. You need to become a bigger channel for wealth. That starts with asking, where am I blocking the flow? Where am I hoarding out of fear? Where am I refusing to invest in myself or others? Every blockage you release opens a wider channel. Every act of trust, generosity, investment widens the pipeline. And as the channel widens, more flows through, not by force, but by alignment. Wealth isn't something you grab, it's something you're entrusted with. When you show you can circulate well, you get entrusted with more. That's not law of attraction fluff. That's the law of circulation in action. You've probably heard 100 so-called laws about money. Law of attraction, law of vibration, law of assumption. Forget the noise. There's really only one law that governs wealth in the real world, the law of seed and harvest. Let me break it down without the fluff. You only reap what you sow. If you plant nothing, you harvest nothing. If you plant inconsistently, you harvest inconsistently. If you plant generously, you harvest generously. Money is a harvest. Wealth is a harvest. But it requires planting long before you see results. Most people fail here because they plant once, expect instant results, and quit when nothing pops up in a week. They forget that a seed needs time underground before it breaks the surface. They don't realize that delay isn't denial, it's incubation. And while they're waiting, they dig up the soil, questioning their efforts, killing the process. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. There is no shortcut around the law of seed and harvest. You have to put something in, time, effort, capital, value, before something comes out. This is where spiritual people get stuck. They meditate, visualize, journal, but never actually plant a real-world seed. You can't manifest a harvest from seeds you never planted. You have to start the business. You have to make the offer. You have to publish the content. You have to send the proposal. You have to risk the rejection. And not once, consistently, over time. Every post you write, every pitch you send, every deal you make, it's a seed. Not every seed will sprout, but the more you plant, the higher your odds. It's a numbers game governed by a natural law. Sow more, reap more. And here's where the spiritual intersects the practical. Your faith is demonstrated in your planting. If you truly believed a harvest was coming, you'd be planting like crazy. The reason most people don't plant much is because deep down, they don't believe it'll work. So they hedge, they hold back, they dabble. But then they wonder why they're harvesting crumbs. If you want a full harvest, you need to sow like someone who expects it to work. Every action you take is a vote for your future wealth. The more votes you cast, the stronger your outcome. Don't plant one seed and pray for a forest. Plant an orchard every day, even when you're tired, even when you see nothing, because harvest always comes, but only to those who've sown. So why is this the last video you'll ever need about attracting wealth? Because the truth is simpler than they make it. You don't need another tactic. You don't need another affirmation. You don't need another list of steps. You need to shift the way you relate to wealth at the deepest level, from fear to trust, from scarcity to stewardship, from chasing to channeling, from waiting to planting. Wealth isn't magic. It's a result of who you've become, what you've sown, what you've stewarded. And once you understand that, you stop waiting for luck. You stop blaming circumstance. You stop looking for the perfect guru. You realize, I am the strategy. I am the channel. I am the seed planter. And that shift changes everything. You're no longer hoping wealth finds you. You're becoming the kind of person wealth can trust. That's the work. That's the path. And the wild thing is, once you walk it, wealth doesn't just arrive. It stays. It grows. Because you finally become the version of you who can hold it, steward it, multiply it. And no one can take that away. You've earned it, not just financially, but internally. That's why this is the last video you'll ever need. Because once you get this, you'll never need another one again.